Good morning, children. Today we will be doing the concluding stanza of the poem Dover Beach. This is the last stanza of this poem, and the poet's thoughts come here. The speaker says, "Ah, love, let us be true to one another. For the world which seems to lie before us, like a land of dreams, so various, so beautiful, so new, hath really neither joy nor help for pain, nor certitude nor peace, nor help for pain. And we are here on a darkling plain, swept with confused alarm of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night." Now, children, here the poet is calling out to his beloved. I told you in the first class the poem is a dramatic monologue. The speaker is airing his views, and through his words we know that there is a listener in the room, his beloved, whom he addresses as love. So he calls his love, his beloved, to the window. The poet is looking out of the window. So earlier also he has asked his beloved to come to the window. Sweet is the night air. That is what he had said in the first stanza. So he is asking his beloved to come to the window. And he tells her, "Let us be true to one another." Now, true to one another means let us be faithful to one another. Let us be loyal to one another. Now, why is he imploring his beloved to be loyal to him, to be faithful to him? Now, because he feels that in this world, the only way to survive in this soul-killing loss of faith is love, and to remain loyal to each other. He says, "For." Now, why should they be true to one another? For means because for the world which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams. Now, here the poet is talking about the present world, the world in its present surroundings, the world in its present circumstances. He calls it the world of the land of dreams. And then why is he calling it a land of dreams? He calls it a land of dreams. He calls it beautiful, new. Yet he says that there is no joy in this world, no love, no light. Now, children, please understand one thing here. Now, let's take the present day situation. Now, present day situation is also very indecisive. We don't know what to do, what not to do. Now, there is something that we are embracing which is new to us, right? So let's take this present example. Now, when we are witnessing this pandemic around us, in this scenario, say you are having a very new thing which we had not ever had, these online classes. Now, this is something which is new, and we are embracing this newness. But when we are embracing this newness, there is not even an ounce of doubt in our minds. Is it good or bad? The doubt is not there in our mind. Why? Because this thing is absolutely crystal clear in front of us. We know what technology is. We know what its pros and cons are. So now, children, change is a way of life. But people are a little averse to change. Now, why people are averse to change? The reason is that a change that is sudden, and you see its repercussions right away, you can decide the change is for good or not. But here, change is a very slow moving process which is spread over a very long time. So now, if I see something now in the poem Darkling Thrush, Pooja ma'am also talked about this turn of century, this uncertainty, this gloom, this despair. Now why? Now things are changing, but why is man in that gloomy state? Now something that is far away, and the turn of the century. Now you've seen a circle. Now when you see the circle, you cannot see the complete circle in one go. Alright, there's only a part that is facing you that you can see. The other side of it is not visible to you. So just seeing the side which is facing you, you cannot say with assurance, with surety, that the way it appears on front, it will be the same way at the back also. Alright? Unless the entire image unfolds before you, you are not in a position to say whether it is for the better or for the worse. So people are in that same kind of a situation right now. This uncertainty prevails, and why are people in doldrums? On one side, they are losing faith in religion because whatever they had been believing till now, there is no firm, authentic basis to prove that. On the other hand, this science is developing, it is bringing forth new theories, the theory of evolution, and whatever it says, there is firm foundation, authentic proof to show that, prove that. So a new world where this previous world you're losing faith in, and this is not absolutely completely visible to you. There is a part of it which is visible because the world is still in that state of discoveries, new evolution theories are being propounded. So the science is still in a process of developing. So the entire process has not, or the entire fact and figures have not been laid in front of you in black and white. Certain things are coming up that are proving that what religion had been saying is not the absolute truth. So in this present scenario, the world appears like a land of dreams. Alright, like I gave you the example of the present pandemic. Now here we say have embraced online teaching, but we are doing it with conviction. Why? Because technology has developed so much that we know its pros and cons. It is completely in front of us, so we know. And the two situations, the present scenario of world and this technology, both are absolutely clear to us. We know that this, under these circumstances of COVID-19, we'll not be able to teach children. So this situation is, it has an upper hand. It can be easily utilized here. So we are absolutely clear here. So this change from classroom teaching to online teaching, this change came easily, and we had no inhibitions in adopting this change, because here we knew what pros and cons were, what this entire situation was. But when this world is still in a state of development, the science is emerging still, the world has not come as a clear picture in front of people. It appears like a world of dream. That is, when you see it, like I gave you the example of circle. Now in a circle you see one part of it clearly in front of you, but there is the other part that is at the back which has not been seen by you as yet. So you still have inhibition. So he is telling his beloved that this world which is in front of them right now, it appears to them like a world of dreams, that it seems to promise a lot. So various means this present changing world seems to be looking like a land of dreams, affording new opportunities. It appears to be so various. Various is so full of variety. It appears to be so beautiful. It appears to be so new. Now when he has used these positive adjectives for describing the changing world, see the change that comes in his tone right away. He says, but the truth is, that is on superficial level, when you look at the changing world, it might appear to you like a land of dreams. It might appear to be varied, vivid, affording variety. It might appear to you to be beautiful, to be new. This might be there on the superficial level. But according to him, the truth is that it hath neither joy nor love nor light. Light symbolic of light of religion that showed path to mankind till now. But he feels that now the world is devoid, this new world is devoid of true joy, of true love, of light that showed path to mankind. Nor certitude. Certitude means certainty. Now there is no certainty in the present world scenario. Why I gave you that example of circle. Something that far off, you see it as an emerging thing, it appears to be beautiful. But then there is no certainty that the part I saw and believed, it will actually materialize to be the same way as I predicted it to be or as I anticipated it to be. He says, nor peace nor help for pain. Now he says this new world may appear to be land of dreams, affording variety, beautiful, new, but it doesn't have joy, love, light, certainty. It doesn't have peace and no help for pain. No help for pain means when people had this absolute faith, this anchorage that religion afforded to mankind. It had help for pain. Any pain you had, dilemma you had, uncertainty you had, you knew you could go back to religion and find answer there. You had that solace, that comfort. But now, this new changing world does not offer help for pain. Now, this last 3 lines, children, are very important. They afford a very beautiful imagery. Now, he is describing the condition of mankind in this situation. I gave that example in the first class of that mankind being like a pendulum, right? Sometime thinking the theory of evolution, the science to be true, and on the other time thinking that probably it is religion that they believed in was a better choice. So, describing the condition of mankind, he says, and we are here on a darkling plain. Darkling plain. Darkling is dark, plain battleground. Now, he says the condition of mankind presently was as if he is standing in a dark battlefield. Dark battlefield is battlefield where you're fighting at the time of night. Night, absolute darkness. Swept with confused alarm of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night. Now, why are the armies? Now, there are 2 opposing armies that are fighting on this darkling plain, this dark battlefield, this battlefield that is engulfed in darkness. Now, 2 opposing armies are fighting against each other, but why are they called or why are they described as ignorant armies? Why ignorant armies? Now, who are these 2 ignorant armies? One could be science, one could be religion fighting against each other. Now, when you're fighting in darkness, you are just hitting out, saving yourself. But you do not know the person you are hitting out at, whether he's a friend or a foe. Whether you are hitting out at your own enemy or you're hitting out at your own friend. And which army are you presently? At one time you are hitting out at science and saving religion. On the other time you are hitting out at religion and saving science. So you don't know who is your friend, who is your foe. These are ignorant armies that are fighting in the battlefield during the time of darkness, night. So that is this darkness here is the mental darkness, the confusion in the mind of man, not knowing who is he hitting out at, who is he defending, who is he opposing. So this kind of a scenario he is talking about. And when the world's scenario is of this kind, he is therefore giving that advice to his beloved when he says in the first line, love, let us be true to one another. Now, why should, when he calls his beloved to the window to witness that sweet night air, he tells her that let us be true to one another. Why let us be true to one another? Because the world scenario that he has described says for the world. For means because. Why should we be true to one another? Because the present new world seems to be this way on superficial level, but actually is like this. And he concludes the entire picture by drawing a comparison, or by drawing that metaphor of the two ignorant armies clashing by the night. Therefore, he feels that in this kind of scenario in the world, the only thing that can offer any solace to the world, and he says the only way to survive in this soul-killing loss of faith in this world was to love and to remain loyal to each other. Alright, now with that, children, we conclude the poem Dover Beach. I hope you've understood. For any doubts, you can ask your questions, post your questions. Thank you, children.